Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of the greatest UFC fighters.
I think Khabib was great.
Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Khabib, the Eagle, Nurmagomedov!
In the rugged mountains of Dagestan, a warrior was forged. A boy who wrestled bears, trained in the harshest conditions. Dominant athletes the world has ever seen. His name, Khabib Nurmagomedov, undefeated, unbreakable, a champion who walked away at the peak of his career, leaving behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. The making of a warrior. To understand Khabib, we must go back to where it all began. Dagestan, a land known for its warriors. A place where combat is not just sport, but a way of life. Born on September 20th, 1988, Khabib grew up under the watchful eye of his father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, legendary coach, and a former Soviet military veteran. The road to UFC. Khabib's transition from regional dominance to the world stage wasn't easy. In Russia, he made a name for himself in combat sambo, winning world championships. But his real test would come in 2012 when he entered the UFC. In his first fight, Khabib faced Kamal Shaloras, an experienced fighter known for his wrestling. Many doubted the young Dagestani, but Khabib made a statement. Win after win, Khabib's dominance became undeniable. His relentless pressure, unmatched grappling, and suffocating ground control turned him into a nightmare for the lightweight division. The McGregor rivalry. But with success came challenges. In 2018, Khabib faced his biggest test not just inside the cage, but outside it. The rivalry with Conor McGregor.
My last fight, like, I don't drink.
Why don't you drink?
I don't drink.
Why don't?
It was more than a fight. It was personal. McGregor, the biggest star in the sport, went after everything Khabib stood for. But Khabib was not just fighting for himself, he was fighting for honor, for respect, for Dagestan. The world watched as Khabib dismantled McGregor in the biggest fight in UFC history. But what happened after the fight shocked the world. The emotions, the years of disrespect, the personal attacks, everything boiled over. Khabib later apologized, but his message was clear. Respect is everything. Legacy of an undefeated champion. After defending his title against Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, Khabib stood at 29-0. But in 2020, tragedy struck. Khabib lost his father, his mentor, his everything. Yet, despite the pain, he stepped into the cage one last time against Justin Gaethje. With tears in his eyes, he delivered one of the most emotional performances in UFC history.
It was my last fight, and no way I'm gonna come here without my father. It was first time when, after what happened with my father, when UFC called me about Justin.
And just like that, the greatest lightweight of all time walked away. Not for money, not for fame, but for family, for faith, for legacy. The impact beyond fighting. Khabib Nurmagomedov was more than a fighter. He was a man of faith, discipline, and principles. While many athletes craved the spotlight, Khabib walked a different path. He never sought fame for himself. Instead, he used his platform to inspire others, to uplift his community, and to honor his religion.
You cannot talk about religion, you cannot talk about nation, guys, you cannot talk about this stuff. And this is, for me, is very important.
In a world where controversy sells, Khabib stood firm in his values. He refused to drink alcohol, turned down lucrative sponsorships that conflicted with his beliefs, and always carried himself with humility. But Khabib's influence wasn't just about morality, it was about action. After retiring, he dedicated his time to shaping the next generation of fighters. Khabib took the lessons his father taught him and passed them down to his students. Under his guidance, Islam Makhachev became the UFC Lightweight Champion, continuing the dominance of Dagestani fighters. But Khabib's impact stretched beyond fighting. He became an entrepreneur, launching his own MMA promotion, Eagle FC. He invested in youth programs, built gyms, and even held meetings with world leaders to promote sports in developing countries. He didn't just retire from fighting, he transitioned into a leader, a mentor, and a businessman who continues to uplift others. The warrior's philosophy. Khabib once said, "When you become famous, you have two choices. You can use your fame for good, or you can lose yourself." He chose the first. For Khabib, success was never about money, belts, or recognition. It was about honoring his family, his religion, and his people. But even as his influence grew, Khabib never changed. He remained the same humble warrior from the mountains of Dagestan, always remembering where he came from.
A lot of people underestimate one thing: when they become famous, when they become rich, when they become success, they all beginning to talk about, oh, you know, this is because of my mindset, this is because of I work hard, this is because my business mind is very smart, you know. I'm very strong guy, I can handle anything in the world, you know. That's why I become like very successful, you know.
Khabib's retirement didn't mark the end of his journey. It marked the beginning of something greater. A new chapter where his victories are no longer inside the cage, but in the lives he changes every day. The eternal legacy. Legends are not defined by how many fights they win, but by the impact they leave behind. Khabib Nurmagomedov walked away undefeated, not just in MMA, but in life. A warrior, a champion, a son, a leader. His record stands at 29-0, but his true legacy is measured in the millions of hearts he has touched. The best legacy is not trophies, but the people you inspire.